Hello everyone, Christopher Hall from Oxford Investment Consultants here, and I'm here today with Sean Sutcliffe, CEO of Oxford Space Systems. Sean, a very warm welcome from OIC, and thank you very much for joining us today. Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be where you are at OSS.
Sure. So I'm an engineer by training, and I've spent most of my career in the sectors of defence, oil and gas and renewables, renewable chemicals, really looking at building businesses, first of all in larger companies, and recently in the last 15 years in smaller companies, in startups, development companies. And in that capacity, in fact, I was on the advisory board for one of the investors of Oxford Space Systems. So when the chance came to help guide OSS into the next stage of development, really going from a startup, having a concept, through to the stage where we are now, where we're building our customer base, growing our capabilities, and looking to scale up the business, I really jumped at that opportunity.
So tell us, Sean, if you will, what's the problem that OSS is trying to solve?
Well, just to be very basic about it, we're making antennas for space. That's the part of the antenna that's either receiving or sending signals. And the issue is that as the demands of space become more rigorous, they're lower mass required, lower size, lower cost, but of course, at the same time, higher performance. How do you achieve that? And the way to do that is to have an antenna that's deployable, because that gives you a lower mass, lower cost solution that you can fit into really quite a small space. So that's the problem that we're trying to solve.
Sean, tell us a little bit about how OSS's technology works.
Sure, the best way to describe this is through an analogy. Let's take an umbrella, it's unfurling. We have exactly the same sort of idea where we have an antenna structure which can deploy and unfurl out into the shape of a parabola that's giving that antenna. So there's different materials we might use for that. They might be composites, they might be high performance metals to meet the harsh environment requirement, and also to make sure it deploys absolutely 100% reliably every time. Another analogy might be a jack-in-the-box. In that case, we're looking at a little helical spring that pops out of a small box at this sort of size. So that's where the smartness is. It's around the deployment, it's around the materials, and it's around the radio frequency performance to give that blend of high performance, low cost, low mass, low volume.
Sean, we know you're very excited about the opportunity for OSS. Could you give us an indication of how you see the scale of that opportunity, both in the United Kingdom and elsewhere, even indeed globally?
So satellite manufacturing is a $15 billion market per year. And within that, the deployable antennas business is around about $1 billion per year. Obviously, within that, there's large chunks of the market that we can't access. But we're looking at a business that's growing from maybe 2 million sales last year and maybe going up 50% per year over the next few years. How far it can go with the existing portfolio of products and markets that we've got, time will tell. But obviously we have a set of capabilities that we can extend into a range of products in space and elsewhere.
Sean, I expect this is a somewhat intricate question, but could you give us a little bit of an outline of the regulatory regime or regimes that the company faces in its development?
For us, I think perhaps the interesting side of this is the quality control. Because what you need to be assured is that the product is going to work every time. So for us, most of the work, in fact, is in the engineering design, the analysis, the testing. We've got one of the largest clean rooms in Harwell, where we do testing of our antennas before we ship them to customers. And we also use facilities such as the Rutherford Appleford Laboratory Vibration Lab or the National Physical Laboratory RF testing range, to do really thorough testing before we ship our products. So in a way, for us, the regime is all around quality control more than anything.
So how so far has the business been funded, and how much further funding overall do you anticipate that the business will require?
So the business has been funded in a fairly traditional way with seed investment from intermediate EIS investment funds, such of course as OIC, and then following on from that, venture funds such as Longwall Ventures in Harwell and IQ Capital in Cambridge. And the most recent round was led by Foresight, which is an EIS fund in London. Looking forward, we're well funded at the moment. We would probably be looking at a final round to take us to break even next year, which would be the order of 3 to 5 million we're anticipating. But obviously the scale depends on the growth of the business, the success in marketing, and also how much we can raise in terms of grants and non-dilutive funding, which will be very successful, particularly from people like the European Space Agency.
Now here comes the question that I have to ask, even if I don't enjoy asking it. What have been the effects on the business of COVID-19, and what have you been doing to mitigate those effects?
Well, we're relatively lucky in that in operational terms, 80% of our staff have been able to work from home. It's very heavy engineering, analysis, design, marketing, content, and 20% who are involved in actual physical activities, have been able to work through the pandemic at work with all the usual social distancing. So in terms of operations, we've not been affected at all, with relatively small delays due to some test facilities not being open in government locations, for example. On the business side, we're actually also fairly fortunate in that our business is weighted towards governmental and sovereign customers who continue to go forward with the programs. So we've seen no slackening in activity on the sales side as well. So we're very fortunate. I don't want to be complacent. Obviously, the economy, the debt burden of every state is a big headwind going forward. But at least in terms of where we stand today, we're one of the fortunate businesses.
What would you say are the most challenging and the most rewarding aspects of leading an early stage company, if I may refer to OSS in those terms?
I think my experience in terms of the challenge is you're always breaking into a new market and there are incumbents. And it's very easy as a company like ours to talk about our disruptive technology, to talk about the competitive advantage. But in fact, the truth is you're an entrant into a market and you actually know very little in general compared to the companies who've got bags of experience, bags of capability, many assets, great relationships. So it's really that breaking in that is the challenge. And I'm a big fan of being a little bit humble. Whilst we are looking to take their business, we need to learn from the people who've been doing this for a long time. But we've got strengths. We're agile, we're low cost, we've got all sorts of innovative ideas. So we've got some strengths too that they love. But a little bit of humility, I don't think is amiss in a startup company, and often perhaps not seen. The reward is immense. The ability to do things, to make change, to change direction, to make things happen, to build something. I'm an engineer. I love building businesses, and you really do see the effects of it. Even I've been in OSS for a year, and we made huge progress in a year. That's the reward.
Could you please outline for us briefly the key goals for the company in the next year to 2 years?
In our sector, it's all around heritage. If you're putting products into space, the first question people say is has this worked before? What's its heritage? We don't yet have very much heritage. We've put 2 booms into space and an assembly for a deployable panel. So the first thing we really need is space heritage. We've got 1 antenna looking to be deployed in space in a launch this month. We're looking at a second antenna, which we're just about to ship to the customer in the next week, to be launched in the next 6 to 9 months, depending on the usual delays in terms of launch slots. And the second thing is around building the business. And what do I mean by that? I've been focusing with the team on strategic partnerships with customers. There were big customers. We talked about the Ministry of Defence. We have other in industrial, commercial, and sovereign customers. So really understanding their needs, building a long-term partnership, and getting repeat orders from those, which we've actually been quite successful in doing. If you understand their business, you're talking to them, they come to you first, and it's not necessarily a competitive bid situation.
And Sean, a question I'm sure all of our investors and potential investors would love to know the answer to. What do you see as the long-term vision for the company, its long-term growth prospects, exit prospects, etc.?
The first stage is to build our capabilities, build our heritage. The second stage is the portfolio of products that we have across the range of deployable antennas, becoming, as it were, the go-to company for whatever deployable antenna solution you need. And then looking at the adjacent markets, whether it's using the same infrastructure for a terrestrial antenna for the military, which we've got a project in at the moment, or expanding into other deployable structures in space, such as solar panels or whatever. So that's really the if you like, the business goal. In terms of exit, the antenna is really the bleeding heart of a satellite system. It's the thing that's at the heart of the mission. And that makes us a strategic asset when you're looking at a satellite system or indeed a wider commercial or military mission. So I think if we are if you like, the go-to company in the sector, we're going to be pretty attractive to people who are looking to either expand their role or be aligned with, as it were, the most important component on the spacecraft. That's the goal.
Sean, thank you very much for your time today. That's been extremely illuminating, and I'm sure that a large number of our investors will enjoy hearing your discussion a great deal. So I'd like to say thank you. I'd like to say on behalf of everyone at OIC how much we enjoy being part of your journey, and we look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Well, thank you, Chris, for your time, and of course, a chance to thank your investors, our shareholders, for their ongoing support and encouragement to OSS. It's really valuable and much appreciated. Thank you.